Alright, a little disclaimer before we get started. You're getting used to these. It's no secret that my approach to magic might be considered to be affiliated to chaos magic. For the one or two viewers who may still be unfamiliar with the term, no, this doesn't mean that I sit in my parents' basement plotting on how I can destroy the existing semblance of order and bring more chaos into the world. No, I assure you, I left puberty behind me some years ago. A chaos magician is merely someone who lives by the belief that the universe is in fact unordered chaos until it's observed, at which point order is imposed upon it. And that order remains until it slips out of anyone's or anything's consciousness. So if you can imagine reality as a soup of potentiality, which fixes itself to be what the majority of people most expect it to be. In fact, it's not even so much that it fixes itself, it's more like all the possibilities that didn't happen just collapse into inexistence, leaving only the one surviving possibility that then gets experienced as reality. So yes, that's quite an outlandish proposition for some people, I'm sure, but I explain it all quite clearly, I think, in one of the first Esoteric Saturday videos that I ever made, which people say is quite easy to follow. One of the conclusions that chaos magicians reach as a result of this belief is that reality can be molded by the observer as long as the observer can be absolutely persuaded that whatever possibility they chose, and it has to be a possibility, by the way, not an impossibility, is the most likely one to come about. But pretending to believe something or declaring that you believe something isn't the same thing as believing. Here's the trouble with the word belief. It gets misused a lot, mainly due to some religion-abusing organizations who have traditionally threatened children, adults, with eternal suffering unless they believe whatever it is that organization believes in. And so the word belief has become synonymous with a veil of fiction cast over what I know deep down to be true, designed to choke that deeper truth so that I don't get into trouble. Well, that to me isn't belief. That's just child cruelty. It's delusion. It's lying to yourself. No, when I say that a chaos magician picks a possibility by believing in it, I mean that they make that inner truth the outcome that they've picked. And if that sounds like a hard thing to do, well, maybe you're working out why everyone doesn't just do it. Of course, there are circumstances that can make the process easier. For example, when the outcome you want is something that everyone expects to happen anyway, other people are performing chaos magic with their expectations, whether they know it or not. What they believe to be true directly affects which of the possible realities gets picked. Another helpful situation, though, and in this one you might actually get to experience the magic a bit more directly, is when the rest of the world is simply looking the other way, not at all involved in what you're trying to make happen. And so in this case, only your belief of what should happen actually matters. Now you only have your own preconceptions about what's likely and what isn't to contend with. But here's the hitch. Your own preconceptions are quite a formidable contender. So the chaos magician uses techniques to alter his or her own deeply held beliefs. Sigils, self-suggestion, and also petitions to deities. Actually, the reality of the deity itself doesn't matter as long as they are petitioned as if they were real. Which is why it makes no difference to the chaos magician whether it's one of the classical gods, or one of the Sumerian deities from pre-classical antiquity, or a modern superhero, or John Lennon, or even the Smurfs, for goodness sake, as long as it can be believed that they will in fact help. Alright, now why am I yet again rehashing the principles of chaos magic, that work very well, by the way? Well, mainly as an introduction to why I'm so bothered to see that some parts of the magic practicing community is going down the path of triumphalism. If triumphalism is a new word for you, it was basically inherited from the sphere of religions where the followers just beat their shields in triumph, so to speak. because their religion is the only true religion, and all other religions are either misguided or straight up evil. I'm sure that if you're the kind of person who would watch a Foolish Fish video, you're probably also the kind of person who knows exactly what I'm talking about here. But I mean, come on, is that really something we want permeating into the magical community? My technique is the right technique for getting in touch with such and such an entity, and if you use a different technique, then sorry, you were fooled by a trickster spirit, or you inadvertently created a servitor and deluded yourself that it was in fact the spirit you were invoking. Whatever the case, your experience isn't valid because you didn't reach it using the proper methods. Yeah, and those proper methods are usually only proper because they're old. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't make those old, traditional methods wrong either. They're very powerful, very potent. But just because they work doesn't mean that other methods can't work as well. It's like saying the way to drink coffee is to travel to Tokyo, then get up at 6 a.m, take the underground to Shibuya Station at 7 a.m, cross over to the Tsutaya building, and then take the lift to the 6th floor and stand in line at the Starbucks. If you've ever used any other method, then sorry, what you had wasn't really coffee. What you had was, well, actually something that, quite frankly, you should be ashamed of and definitely not mention in real coffee drinking circles, if you want to avoid ridicule anyway. One of the well-loved members of the Foolish Fish Discord chat server was relating an experience they'd had in a local esoteric supplies store, where another customer asked them what they practiced. They answered that they would probably call themselves a pandeistic mystic, to which the answer came, "I wouldn't call yourself a mystic, because the real mystics on social media will tear you up." Well, this has since become a running joke where the real mystics of social media is quickly becoming the given term for the kind of practitioner who's so insecure with their own practice that they feel they have to invalidate other people's practice. The thing about spirituality and work with spirits, yes, I do think that the two are correlated, if not necessarily the same thing, is that they're universal experiences which belong to no one more than they belong to anyone else. Regardless of how Christianity evolved, there's no doubt that the early Christians, at least, knew this as they enshrined this principle by having their Messiah be a Nazarene. In John 1:46, Nathanael actually asks, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" And also having him enter Jerusalem riding on a donkey. Clearly, regardless of what their successors did with the tradition, those early Christians at least believed that spiritual matters happen wherever spiritual matters happen, and tradition and decorum have very little to do with it. I'm currently reading the fantastic latest book by Damon of the Gallery of Magick, where he outlines the recent history of the right way to achieve knowledge and conversation with your holy guardian angel. It's a rare pleasure to read from a genuine occultist who has fully embraced this possibility of multiple ways to the same result. I think off the top of my head, I can only think of a handful of others who have the same attitude and for whom I have the same kind of respect. Of course, Damon points out the problem with Samuel McGregor Mathers's flawed translation of a flawed translation of an incorrectly transcribed source, which was used over the last century as the only way of making full contact with your HGA. But then George Dehn published his own translation of an actually complete original source, and it turned out to be wildly different from Mathers's edition. So how come Mathers's edition worked? Because there's little doubt that it did work. So to conclude, methods are great. And when a method has grown some notoriety, something like a star status, then it can help in making your rituals a success just by the gravitas that it brings to your practice. I will repeat, however, that the success of one method by no means invalidates another method. The only thing that could invalidate a method for you is if you try the method and it doesn't work for you. If this happens, you can safely say, this method didn't work for me. Magic is a science, yes, but one where the person performing the experiments is, him or herself, actually a major part of the laboratory, let alone the experiment. So far from objective. By the same account, however, your experiences of the worlds beyond the physical realm belong to no one other than you, and only you can ever be in a position to pass judgment on the validity of that experience. That's not to say that what you experienced was necessarily Jehuti or the Green Tara or King Paimon or Lord Vishnu. However, the real mystics of social media are most definitely not better placed than you are to make that judgment. I'd love to read any comments you might have where someone passed unsolicited judgment on your practice. Of course, asking for constructive criticism when you're getting started is another matter altogether, but I mean any situation where you felt that what you'd been doing and the experience you'd had as a consequence was actively undermined by someone who clearly needed an opportunity to feel better about themselves. Let me know down below, we can all have a laugh about it. Or alternatively, come and talk about it with me and the other members on the Discord channel by joining the Foolish Fish memberships, which start at just $2 a month. You can just click on the little blue join button next to the subscribe button, or click on the link in the description to find out more about that. The instructions for members on how to then find the members' Discord chat server are also in the description. Members also get to see these Esoteric Saturdays videos a week before everyone else, without any advertisements, among other perks. Now, if you did enjoy the video, but you feel that an actual membership isn't quite for you yet, then another thing you can do to help out the channel is just to click on the like button, and of course to hit that subscribe button and the little bell button if you haven't done so already. Thank you as always to each and every Foolish Fish member. As you know, you keep me and my family alive and my bookshelves well stocked with your contributions, and I'm really eternally grateful for your support. And thanks finally to every one of you who made it to the end of this video. Take care of yourselves and of each other, and see you very soon with another video.